Welcome to Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. I'm Julia Elliott-Brown, the founder and CEO of Enter the Arena. I'm a serial entrepreneur and an expert in raising investment and business growth. Our mission at Enter the Arena is to empower female founders to fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business with investment expertise and business coaching. Here we share the stories of inspirational female founders who've raised investment to inspire you to do the same. You'll hear their honest accounts of what it was really like to secure funding, the highs, the lows, and the challenges they experienced on the journey. And along the way, we'll discuss top tips for how you can be successful too. So today I'm speaking with Bea Warner from Exaactly. Now, Exaactly provides detailed property data to logistics companies so that when they're delivering to someone's address, they're delivering your parcels or your shopping, they can find it as quickly as possible. Exaactly work with prestigious retail clients, including John Lewis, Iceland, and Waitrose. And they are really revolutionizing the way that these companies deliver goods to consumers. It's exciting stuff. Now, although the original idea for the business came from Bea's dad, which we'll hear all about in a minute, Bea joined Exaactly very early on in the start of the business in 2016. Now, Bea's got a degree in geography and has had a number of years working for some major companies in brand and account management, looking after clients including Sainsbury's and Waitrose. So that meant that Bea was perfectly placed to head up Exaactly with all that great experience. Now let's talk a little bit about the fundraising journey. So Bea has raised an impressive £360,000 in funding for the business. And this has come from a mixture of angel investors and also through the John Lewis accelerator, which is called JLab. And I'm really looking forward to finding out more about that. So without further ado, let's speak to Bea and find out more about her fundraising journey, the highs, the lows, the challenges, and her top tips for success. So welcome, Bea. It's great to have you here.
Hi, it's great to be here as well.
Right. So, obviously I gave you a very, very quick intro at the beginning, but tell us a little bit more about Exaactly. Explain to us what you do and how you do it and what the benefits are for your clients.
Yeah, so we saw a big disconnect between drivers getting to their delivery location and the technology that is used today. The whole industry really relies on driver knowledge, and there's a huge driver churn at the minute. So even employed drivers, there's a 50% churn rate, which means that people are having to rely more and more on technology. And there just isn't that level of detail. You just get an address and off you go, and good luck, whatever sort of map you're using. And so we provide property metadata, so a really accurate geocode of the property, not the postcode. And then we also share more data about the building they're actually going to. So essentially, the company can start to assign what we call a dynamic drop time, depending on whether they're going to a 6-story flat with no lift perhaps versus like a terraced house on the road. So throughout their day, they can accurately allow the right time at the right place, meaning they should be less likely to be late throughout their manifest, which ultimately pleases customer satisfaction and helps a positive driver sentiment as well if they're running time.
Great, fantastic. So finally your parcels arrive with you without getting lost.
Yeah.
The door and the flat.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing stuff. And so, and this was your dad's idea, is that right?
So the business has pivoted a lot. Actually, my dad's original idea was around digital addressing and having a shorthand digital alias for consumers to use across multiple retail platforms and logistic companies. And that was the idea I came on to pursue with the business. And having got under the skin of a use case we'll talk about later, just realized that actually it was a bit of a 3-legged stool, and trying to integrate with e-commerce and logistics and onboard consumers was a very tall order, especially when you're at the beginning. You really don't have much cash and you've got really limited resources. So the people that were really interested in our product were the fulfillment teams, and that's why we pivoted to create an API that's B2B only doesn't rely on retail or consumer integrations. And that's the business that we're pursuing today. So very different from my dad's original idea, but I guess had I not jumped on the ship for that idea, this one would never have come out of it, because you have to really be in your industry, like living and breathing it and speaking to customers the whole time to really like understand what is the problem they're actually facing and how can you solve that.
Yeah, amazing. And so, I mean, it's interesting, you come on board with your dad. So then at the beginning, so you took the leap out of corporate life to come and join your father with this idea. I mean, you mentioned about cash being limited at the start.
Yeah.
How did you guys fund things?
Yeah. So my dad my dad has several businesses always going on, and he has a full-time job. And he also knew nothing about the space. So like a typical entrepreneur, in the sense that, sometimes you have to have that golden bit of naivety to even do anything. And when I jumped ship into the business, he wasn't actually working on it. So I was, solo founder from day one, which is really daunting. And it took about 8 months for me to decide to leave my company, because I just bought property. I had a mortgage. You get very accustomed to like how much money you've got coming in every month and how much you're spending out. And so the prospect of not being paid, for many people it's not actually possible to do that. So I got really lucky in the sense that, first of all, my dad had put in a small amount of money to build the initial technology, which now is redundant because we've changed course. But he had paid for that about a year before I jumped into the company. And I then got fortunate in that my company at the time allowed me to stay on 2 days a week. So those 2 days a week were absolutely golden for me. That literally paid my mortgage to the penny. I think you just have to be very creative about like sweating your assets. I do so much Airbnb on my flat, on my car parking space, on my car. Not that anyone ever wanted to hire or rent my 1 litre Polo with 150,000 miles on the clock. But, you just have to kind of sweat everything you've got, really. And after about 3 months of doing that, it got really, really busy at Exaactly. So I knew I had to give up the part-time job. And that, again, was, you're really excited about the business, but it is a leap of faith, and you're like, okay, I really need to raise money now because I've really not got any savings. So, and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, made it like super clear there was no way financially I was leaning on him. So I knew I had about 3 months that I could survive, and sometimes I think that's actually a really good motivator to raise money, because it's like with anything, if you're really sort of in the shit, you go for it. Whereas if you've got a full-time job, you can easily sort of cruise along. So
that's true. It's very, very motivating, isn't it? But
yeah,
when you have a lack of resources, that is when you get seriously creative.
Yeah,
I have to say, I mean, there's a danger of leaving the funding to the last minute if you, as you say, are in the shit or feeling desperate. You don't want that. You don't want that desperation to come off.
Definitely. And I think that's actually something, and maybe people will think some of my comments are sort of negative around this, but they're not intended to be. But I think that's where men are often better at this, because they don't give off that sense of desperation, and they don't give off that sense of sort of feeling frit, I guess. Whereas I feel like women are more honest about there's sort of less bullshit from a female entrepreneur. And if someone asks you straight out, okay, how much longer do you have left before you're going to have to return to a job or close or whatever else, I think women just naturally sort of respond with the right answer. And for me, it was my first time raising. I knew nothing about the startup world. I knew nothing about technology. And I think in many ways that was quite helpful, because when you don't know what you're doing, you sort of don't know the downsides of things either. You just sort of go for it. And I'd been told so many horror stories about fundraising. I spent the first 3 months of the business just basically networking the whole time, like trying to get a small advisory board together, get people more senior than me. I think like the best piece of advice is to get someone who's just a little bit ahead of you, like 6 months or 12 months. And they'd all told me, you know, raising money is just awful. And I was sort of mentally prepared, I suppose, for it to be really, really horrendous. And in some ways, I found it quite fun because you're going around and you're pitching your idea, and it's kind of like your time to shine and be really excited. I guess on the negative, it's really exhausting. Like sometimes you can have 4, 5, 6 meetings in a day, and you're saying the same thing. So it's a bit like speed dating.
So first thing you mentioned was about how you just kept hearing lots of these horror stories.
Yeah.
About fundraising. Do you think that puts people off? Do you think that puts women off, particularly if they hear all these horror stories about raising funding?
This is a tricky question because I actively try and seek out like other female entrepreneurs, and I really, really don't come across many. And the ones I do are in really different verticals from me. So they'll be in like fashion or beauty, and investors tend to have a certain vertical or profile that they invest in. And so I don't think any investor who would invest in their business would invest in mine. And I still haven't met any girls in tech and data. So I don't know if the horror stories put girls off raising, or whether girls just are not starting businesses for whatever reason. Like maybe they don't have the idea, maybe they don't feel they're able to, but it's kind of difficult to answer when you don't know the root cause of why people are not, like, are they trying to go for it and they're not able to, or are they just not trying at all? I had a situation where towards the end of my round, I'd actually said no to some money, which because it was all coming together, I'd had some people lined up who were going to join. And I said, look, just join, because we just got onto JLab, which I'll talk about later. And I had to pay them for the first month. And then at the same time, I was saying no to this money because I just knew it wasn't from the right people. And the whole thing just, it wasn't for me. It was one of these programs which are like, here is the equity stake we're taking for this much cash, but then we're going to do all these services which come to like 100 grand, and so therefore, you know, you need to give up more equity for that. And I just really didn't feel comfortable with that. I thought these services are so intangible. You know, how can you confirm how many hours of like mentoring you'll give me, or office space, or you know, workshops, and that they couldn't tangibly kind of give you a number. So I pulled out of that. But I mean, that was the most stressful decision, turning that down. I remember I was on holiday actually in Spain, and I was just on the phone the whole week because I was like, am I making the biggest mistake ever? Or do I take it? At least I have money. But, you know, your investors can be a bit like going into a marriage. And lots of people had told me that and said, you need to have good chemistry with your investors as well as them with you, and kind of, if you are able to, pick wisely. But in this situation, I just, I guess I listened to my gut and my intuition. And I think women have amazing intuition. And that really steered me on that decision. But very, very daunting decision. And I remember just ringing around, so many people saying, am I doing the right thing? And no one really had an answer for me. So I just thought, crumbs, I just have to.
Yeah, but gut feel can be really, really important when it comes to those kind of decisions. I think it sounds like you made the right decision. So then you were still short on raising this round, but you'd already got quite a bit of commitment on a valuation of 1.5 million.
Yeah.
So tell me, what happened with finding this last investor, and why did you drop your valuation at that point? And did you drop it for all investors then?
So I think it was 125K I had to get still. So I told the team, like, look, guys, I'm not going to be able to pay you for 2 weeks, but just believe in me. I'm going to get the money in. And everyone's like, you're not going to be able to raise 125K in a week. Like, are you crazy? And the people on the JLab program were saying the same, like, are you sure you can do this program because you haven't finished your round, and then you can't have a team, and you really need a team to go through the program. And I mean, I managed to meet an amazing angel investor, and as a result, I did close the round, but I cut the valuation because I was panicking because it was the last minute. And in hindsight, I didn't need to do that. The pressure was on, and I really needed to get the round closed. And I had it agreed at 1.5. And I think had I had more time and been more ballsy and just stuck to it, I mean, why not? I instead went to this last chat and I said, look, I've dropped my valuation because, I need to close the round really quickly now. And I remember communicating that to other investors, and they were like, oh, that's like a bit of a bargain. You've taken a third off your valuation. And it's always that balance, isn't it? It's like, if you hadn't done that, would you have closed the round? Maybe, probably. But I guess it's like risk reward. And when you're really at the end of your tether with your finances and you have to pay people, it's just like, you just need to sort of grab it. And
did he make it a condition of his commitment that you had to drop your valuation?
No. So this is all just me trying to make it a more attractive deal, essentially. So I feel like for that decision, I would have loved to have had like a mentor or someone who'd just say to me, just hold your guns, like go in there, don't worry about the valuation. It's more important that they like you, they like the business idea, they like the market opportunity. And if it comes to a sticking point, then you can always go down. But I didn't, at the time, I sort of didn't really have any formal guidance, I suppose. And what is a valuation? I remember being like, how do you even value your business? And it seems like it's a number picked out of a hat based on a variety of sort of metrics that go into your business plan. Because when you're raising your pre-seed, all your forecasts are going to be wrong, 100% wrong. So
there's no right and wrong about it. It's really more looking at the context of how much you're diluting the company at this stage, based on the future funding rounds that you feel you might need. That's where you may come unstuck. But only time will tell, and actually you can't beat yourself up about a decision that's already been made. And at the time you raised on that valuation of $1 million, what traction did you have in the business? Had you got some paying clients at that point?
No, we didn't. Our product was very early stage, almost intangible at that point. It was more just an idea, and we had a website, and we'd actually had quite a few commitments. But I think getting onto the John Lewis program suddenly helped us to get over that final hurdle, because people were like, okay.
Amazing.
John Lewis have selected them from a few hundred companies, then there must be something to this. And that's when investors sort of started to say yes. But I think that's another really tricky thing when you're raising money, is like, you don't get yeses or nos, you just get people saying, keep me in the loop. Okay. And no one wants to go first. It's so annoying. And you just think, these educated people are all acting like sheep. Can someone just take the plunge? And because John Lewis had sort of accepted us, that for us is really that first plunge, and then everyone else sort of came together to close it out.
But you're right, herding those sheep and turning those nods into firm commitment is quite challenging.
Yeah, really hard.
When you've never raised before and you're going into this, as you say, quite green.
Yeah,
quite difficult for you
very,
to know how to.
Very. And people will talk about, all sorts of terms. I didn't know what half of them were, like, oh, and your term sheet and all the stuff with Companies House, and there's so many provisions in all your clauses, and just everything is new to you, and they know that.
Yeah, so there is so much about fundraising is new, and I think you're right. You identified the fact that it would have been quite useful to have some professional support around it. You had some support, didn't you? I
had a small, Yeah, I had a small group of an advisory board. One is an industry expert, so sort of less so about fundraising, and the other two had never fundraised before. So it was a little bit like the blind leading the blind. And I got introduced to some really successful entrepreneurs, and they were like, yeah, I just raised an 8 million valuation off a piece of paper. And I just found it really hard to relate to.
Tell us, let's talk about the John Lewis Accelerator, because I'm fascinated to know more about how you got onto that, what the accelerator brings to you, and also the funding that came with that. Can you tell us?
Yeah, sure. So they used to run the program every year. And there was about 300 to 500 companies, I think, that apply, and it's sort of whittled down to a pitch share of about 25 in categories. So we were in the supply chain category. And from that, they then whittle it down to 5 companies, so one in each of the categories. So we pitched our idea, and then there's a Q&A, and we got through because they saw there was an opportunity to improve an area of their business, which was really important to them, and was costing them a lot of money as well when things went wrong. And the program is positioned that at the end of it, they can invest £200,000 in total into, like, 100 into a winner and 50k into 2 companies, along with Marks, who co-run the program. And so we had to sign an option agreement up front, and obviously you don't know at that stage if you're going to get the investment from them or not, but it was quite a straightforward document, actually, because we were just closing our round. We were able to put the option all in the articles and everything, so people knew what they were signing up for. And then the program for us was just really the best launch pad ever. Can't sing John Lewis's praises enough. Fantastic company to work with. The people just give you so much time. In fact, my sort of mentor there, Colin, I still see every week. And he helps me on all sorts of things, like even business planning. He'll help, whiteboarding sessions, whatever we need. And it's a safe environment in which to test your product. And we did 2 trials, so one with Waitrose and their own fleet, and then one with Waitrose, and we got Yodel to come in to do the fulfillment of their wine and chocolate business. So it was a great environment. I think at the beginning of any business, if you've got that, fabulous brand name that everyone's heard of, like associated with you, it just opens so many doors. As a result of our trials, we actually went on to win the program. So they then invested 100,000. So I think that then just builds a really good story with your investors. And we then had so much PR on the back of it. And I think, again, like, PR is quite an intangible cost, but there is definitely a ripple effect when you start to be in the Telegraph and the Grocer and all these different publications. People start to take your business a bit more seriously, and for future fundraising, it's really great to have all that sort of recognition from the industry. And also, as a result of it, we then got asked on pretty much all the logistic conferences and panels as thought leaders, and sharing our pitch at conferences to sort of 1,200 people.
Wow, so a real door opener for you, isn't it?
Yeah, massive snowball.
The door opening, the PR, and the funding, and the support. I mean, it sounds incredible. What do you see any disadvantages of kind of getting into bed with they're kind of like an industry accelerator, aren't they? So they are clients of yours. Does it preclude you from other potential strategic investors in the future, or what do you think about that?
I think you have to be careful about these things and really think, is it sort of competitive to potentially other clients, and how would they feel about it? But for us, we just felt like our focus is on logistics. John Lewis aren't known as a logistics business, they're known as an e-commerce business, but they do have their own 2-man fleet for their large orders in John Lewis, and then Waitrose obviously fulfill their own groceries. So for us, we didn't think it was sort of competitive in that way.
Obviously, loads of challenges with your fundraising round. You didn't know what you were doing. It was the first time. What do you think was the toughest thing that you found?
Toughest thing. I mean, you obviously investors are going to be thorough, and there's so many questions. And I think just some of the questions at that stage, you're never going to know all the answers. So it's somehow always sort of showing that you're confident, even though there are so many unknowns in your direction of where you're going to go and your numbers. And I guess it's holding your nerve, and that in itself is quite a big skill to learn, because you have to be really comfortable with pauses. You need to be really comfortable to just hold someone's gaze, like their stare, and just say, yeah, that is what I think. And I think it doesn't come as naturally to women, perhaps, as it does to men.
So that holding your nerve thing, I mean, you've mentioned it both in terms of A, the decision to go out and fundraise, B, your decisions around which investors to go with and which ones not to go with, decisions around what your valuation should be, dealing with Q&A. I mean, that holding your nerve thing, you've got to have that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Why is it that women struggle with that, do you think?
But at the beginning, it was a bit like, let's just go for this and see what happens. And I think you just sort of need to be a bit of an actress, I suppose, at times, where you're like, no, I am going to show confidence, even if I don't feel it like everywhere in my body. I am going to represent that. And chemistry is so important in the whole decision-making process. So if you're not confident, they're not going to have confidence in you. And I think it's a shame that a lot of women lack confidence. But I do think it is something you can learn to exude with time and with sort of mentor training. And, I read books on mindset and stuff. I think it's really important to sort of go into every meeting really positive. And, sometimes I would be on the train to a meeting and I was like, I can do this. And I would just be saying it out loud, like, I can do this. I can do this. I'm going to do this. And I can do this.
Do you think you're going to need to do more funding rounds to accelerate the growth?
I think a lot of people actually get caught up in raising money. And if you don't need to, don't do it. It takes so much time to raise rounds. It's incredibly stressful. And ultimately, you're sharing your business with other people. So it's not really your business anymore. You're reporting into shareholders. And, if you're trying to escape sort of the corporate life, when you have investors, it's exactly the same as being in a corporate company, because, you have to be transparent and open and have a lot of meetings and catch-ups, and you've got responsibility to do that. So, I guess, yeah, as a founder, I've sort of learned that along the way, and I think everyone would love not to have to raise money, just because it takes you off doing your business, because it's a full-time job for sure, doing it for several months at a time. So yeah, I mean, we are going to be raising money, but I just say to people, it's not like the be all and end all. And I actually find it really frustrating in the startup industry. Like, whenever you meet anyone at a networking event, it's like, how much money have you raised?
A trophy, isn't it? It's like, you say, what are your goals? And they're like, well,
yeah,
I'm going to be doing a Series A. And I'm like, that's not a goal. That is a route to where you want to get to with the business. It's a tool.
Absolutely.
It's not a goal.
I mean, no one has ever asked me, what's your revenue?
That's me. The other question people say is, how many employees do you have? And I'm like,
how big's your team?
Of success as well, because it's not. So it's a really good point you make, and lots of good points actually, about how, understanding where you want to be and how you have to use that to drive your decisions, and also knowing that when you get investors on board, you are effectively on a route to exit, and there is no other way out. So
that's one thing that's everyone, like, some people are not comfortable with. Some people don't want to exit their business, and why should you feel you have to? Businesses are also there to create sustainable lifestyle for you, your family, and maybe future generations of your family to be involved in and run. So I think there's also like a lack of British businesses. So many get sold out to like American companies. And I just think, it's all these things you have to sort of consider up front, because they're going to want a return on their money. So either you're producing them an awesome dividend business, which is unlikely if you're raising money, or you're planning to exit. And that's a whole strategy that you need to be thinking of the whole time, and speaking to those people who could potentially acquire you from day one to get them on board, and like the story, and get them to know that you exist and all the rest of it. But yeah, I guess the dark side of sort of the startup fundraising space is there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and there's a lot of people like in the space who enjoy sort of the energy of saying like, I've got my own business, I've raised this much money, and da, 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 da. And you sometimes have to question like, why are you really in this? And I think a lot of people also lie as well. So if you feel like everyone around you is doing all these amazing things and you're not growing that quickly, they're probably lying about their numbers. And
I have to say though, on both those fronts, I find that you don't get that very much from female entrepreneurs. I think we are,
sure,
as you say, we tend to be much more honest about what's really going on, where we're at, and we don't tend to have our egos right out of the front. At the front, we're building businesses that are mission driven, values based. That in my experience.
I think women are awesome founders to invest in, because I think they're so honest and they're so capable, and if anything they really undersell themselves versus overselling. And I think now is a great time to be a female founder, because funds are actively saying like they want to invest in a percentage of their money in women. So it's like positively discriminating to us. So now it's like the time to raise money as a woman.
It is. Okay, brilliant. So with that in mind, kind of, have you got any last bits of advice for any female entrepreneurs that are listening or watching this interview about what they should be doing? What should they be thinking about?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm really sorry I'm dressed like this and I have no makeup on. I said to Julia how I'd got in at 4:30 this morning and I didn't realize it was being filmed.
The life of an entrepreneur.
Apologies for that.
Excuse me, never apologize. You look incredible.
So I got my glasses on trying to hide my face. Be natural, be yourself, have confidence. If you don't feel confidence, just, fake it till you make it, because everyone else is out there. And take everything with a pinch of salt.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, best of luck with the business. We should be following you with great interest.
Thanks, Julia.
Do keep us posted, and we're excited to see where you get to. Thank you so much, Pete.
Thank you.
Wonderful to chat.
Certainly so.
Thanks for following Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. This content is all provided to you for free, so if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe so you never miss another one. Enter the Arena has helped hundreds of female founders fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business. Our first-hand experience, expert guidance, and proven programs help female founders unleash the Wonder Woman inside. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to www.enterthearena.co.uk. I'm Julia Elliott Brown, and I look forward to talking with you soon.